Hello, everybody. Ricky T here. Hang on, I'm just going to go live over an Instagram. So give me a moment. Have to do a couple of clicks here, and then I'll be back. And it's not letting me. There we go. Hang on. There we go. Just so you know, I'm in a hotel room in North Carolina doing a corporate gig tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thus, this Facebook Live and Instagram Live and my StreamYard Live into the world is happening on Monday today. It's 12:35 Eastern time and 9:35 West Coast time. So before I kind of launch into the topic today, let me just double check that the tech is working for my hotel room. Josh, you're good? Okay. My amazing co-creator of all this good work in the world, Jocelyn Flowers. And by the way, a little commercial. If any of you need help with social media, anything online to get your work into the world, Jocelyn Flowers is the go-to, dare I say guru, but also the go-to. So if that interests you or you're needing help with that, just Jocelyn, I'm going to do a commercial for you right out of the gate. I promise I'm going to get to the topic, everybody, but I couldn't do the work I get to do in the world without Jocelyn. So feel free to put your info in the chat right now, Jocelyn. So okay, with that said, just a few minutes. I just wanted to start off with I'm in North Carolina. If you know what's happening, we are this hurricane thing happened, and I think it was a bit of a surprise to the North Carolina community, inland wise, with the flooding. I've spent many a day and hours and trainings and teaching in the beautiful area of the Asheville area of North Carolina, and they have been completely devastated. So I'm going to begin with just a shout out and a love out and a prayer out. And I have friends who are there who are, can't get to food and water, the whole thing. We know that supplies are being brought in immediately, but just we know the power of thought, the power of prayer, the power of intention. So wanted to start off with that. And then just to go global for a second, we also know, what's happening globally, right? What we all can certainly do is send a sense of peace to our world. And I know this is a cliche phrase, but it does begin with peace inside of us, right? We can empower our leaders in the world to take a pause and to take a breath and realize, how do they want to do this? We know the anger and the upset. But how do we be together as humans in the anger and the upset, right? Is the bigger game question. So I'm not going to go down that path right now. I just wanted to make sure that I name it. I'm a do leadership development work in the world, and if I stepped over these two things that we know are happening, then So whatever your part in that is, a concept that I learned many years ago. If I'm warring inside of me, which means a lot of voting at myself and shaming myself and blaming myself and doing all that internal warring, then I somehow will create some warring going on in the world. If you buy into that concept, what I invite you to do is to be more graceful with yourself, give yourself more grace, give yourself more compassion, because as we do it with ourselves and we do it with our neighbors and we do it in our communities, then of course it can permeate to the world. There's a lot of evidence contrary to that, and but I believe in that deeply, and I wanted to offer that as a thought right out of the gate. So, but here's the little bit of a segue over to the topic that I wanted to talk about today. So here I am doing a corporate gig, and I don't mean to call it a gig. That sounds so, a corporate an offsite, right, for a fabulous about 45 to 50 people who are gathering, very successful company, and they need to gather and pause and connect and talk about something else other than, of course, doing their work faster, right? That's usually so. I don't get brought in to do a strategy session. I am being brought in by a beautiful co-creator of my work in the world as well, and she's brought me into to we are the guides for having them have a different type of a conversation. So how do they do the thing they do better together? So of course they can go to the next level of whatever the work is they want to do, or the next expansion of the company. Because everything, most companies and most teams want to expand, right? They want to get bigger and all that. So there's that. So hello, Mindy. Hello, hello, hello. But I just wanted to go behind the curtain of how this work continues to come towards me. I'm always fascinated, right? Like, I never take it for granted. I'm always grateful. I was asked to do this, I don't know, 6 months ago. It's on the calendar. Here we are. Right? We have a design. We're going to be in flow with the group, of course. But I wanted to go behind the curtain with, short-term success versus long-term impact. And I know many of you, if you follow me, you're maybe an entrepreneur, you're a life coach, you're in the leadership development space, you're in the personal growth space. And what I keep noticing, and I have a little piece of paper to represent it here, is this is how I tend to think, and I have to catch it. And so let me just draw something for a second here. Okay. So there's me in the center of this, right? I'm going to put me or you, right? In this case, it's you, right? Maybe you want to do this, right? And imagine this is like a force field of energy, right? You're a force field of energy. You always are, by the way. And you put something out into the world. You do a social media post. You call somebody as a reach out with a sales moment, or a here's what I do, and you send it out right into the world. You could, and right, it goes out into this space, right? And our brains, this is what happens to me. My brain sort of goes to, oh, well, I reached out to another person, right? There's another person. Or I did this training or teaching to a bunch of people for free, right? There's another circle. And my brain goes to, oh, from that one reach out, the short term is, oh, well, I did a reach out, or I did a class, or it should come back to me from that person. Like, it feels like a direct, right? Like, oh, well, I reached out and I did that thing, and so that thing should create the thing. I hope that makes sense, right? And and of course, it takes a lot of these things, right? You're sending your signal out. You're sending and I use that word purposely. You're sending your signal out a lot. And I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole now, but we talk a lot about it in my year-long program with my mastermind group. We talk a lot about, what's the signal you're sending out? What's the energy you're sending out? Not just the information, right? But, and this is how the long-term thinking comes in. So, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this gig today, tomorrow, it's actually tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday, is from a conversation I had with somebody probably 2.5 to 3 years ago. Okay. So the arc of time to go from doing something into the world, right? A signal went out. I can't track it literally, but here I am 2.5 years later, right? In this room. And I think we get a little attached to, at least I do. It's like, well, it's not happening fast enough, right? So you are sending signals out now, information, social media posts, reach outs, all that. Think about it this way. You're sending it out now. And what if you let go of the attachment that it has to happen in any time period? That's like, well, how do I run a business, right? Well, but imagine you're doing this now, and this is the impact of this is somewhere between 1 and 3 years out. And that actually calms me down. Then then my ego doesn't go freaked out like, well, nobody responded from that thing, and that one reach out didn't work, and that one workshop, and right. So I've been doing this work for about 45 years now, this type of work, leadership development, coaching, life coaching, business coaching, money coaching, relationship coaching, out of all kinds of support structures, right? And that's what I'm here to do with this team. And I know the residual, and I think you want to think residual income, the concept of residual income. It occurs over time. And that calms me down, because I can get so twisted. Well, I did this thing and nothing happened from this one thing. And we put all this. So this is in the land of, It's a paradox. You're incredibly intentional with the service you want to provide, with the wisdom you have to offer, without being attached to the timetable of it. Because the timetable is my anxiety, right? Well, this has to happen, right? And I can get caught in that so easily. And I know we are all trained and taught, and we get this information. I'm 65 years old. Everybody's like, well, you want to make sure you have this handled so when you get old. And yes, and oh my gosh, I am doing work now at 65 that I can't wait comes in to roost, if you will, or comes in to be birthed or have an impact when I'm 75, right? Think about when I wrote a book, right? The book goes out into the world. It has this little blip of sales, right? Like immediately, yay, right? All of a sudden, yay, this book sold, I don't know, 20,000 copies in the first 2 months or something. And then it starts to, drift down. However, the residual of the message of the book, the residual of the philosophy of the book goes on. And I just got asked to do a public speaking gig, right? That I'm doing in Southern California based on that book that is now almost 8.5 years old, called Play Your Bigger Game. And this person that asked me to do this has known about this, and he's known about me for 10 years. And he finally was in charge of his own conference because he created his own conference. And he says, I need you to now come and do the Bigger Game workshop for my group. Now see how that's a long tail, right? So think long term. Short term showing up, long term impact. I got to show up every day. Here I am showing up on a Monday, doing a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, wherever you're watching this, right? There's an immediacy to the consistency of showing up. But if I get attached to this one show up is supposed to do something immediately, right? Then I get anxious. And I really want to invite you into this paradigm or this perspective. Paradigm for me, by the way, is sort of a big perspective. Paradigm is how we live from. Perspectives, I think we can change immediately. Paradigms for me are bigger. The paradigm to live from is that you love offering your wisdom and your positive impact in the world from now and into eternity. And eternity, whatever that means for you. And I'm in the game, and many people I'm attracting these days are in the longevity of being in the game, right? We are in the, I want to keep doing this until I can't. And I just want to say this out loud. I just read this article this morning. I think it's today, and please set aside all political beliefs for a second. But I think it's today or tomorrow is the birthday of Jimmy Carter. I think he's 100, right? 100 years old. Still has his wits about him. He's been on hospice for a while now, but he's still here. And you know what I read this morning? That he was diagnosed with brain cancer from melanoma 9 years ago. 9 years ago at 91, right? And he's still, right? And I'm not saying he's doing his work in the world. I don't know. They might ask him a question or two. I mean, I know his faculties are, right? But that guy, for me, has been in the game of positive change, impacting people's lives, making a difference, one house at a time. We all know what he's been up to, in the peace space. Was he the greatest politician in the world? I'm not going to vote on that. But what a role model. He's the only United States president, by the way. He was not reelected, as you know. He only is a one-term president, right? But he's the only United States president who has lasted, has made it to 100 years old. That's incredible. That's incredible. Now, I am in it. I'm in that game forever. Like, I'm in this, right? So consider this long-term, short-term, just be aware of that. Where do I get attached? Where do I get nervous? This better work, that kind of energy versus I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my thing. Here I'm doing my thing. Some of you are watching live right now. Most people probably are not. It's a Monday. Most of my world is probably at work. You'll watch it later. That's the gift of all this technology. You can do it live and then it lives there forever, right? So with that said, I do I do a lot of free calls to support people, right? And to support you with your bigger game, to support you with your, so I like to call out all the people in my world, not all, many of you in my world are solopreneurs, soul O, like SOULO. You're about soul, right? And I could even play with SOULOH, soul O preneurs, right? Because you're committed to changing people's lives, you're committing to having people understand how to create their life. You're one of those people that says, I want to be that voice to remind people who they are, what they're capable of, and they have the power to do it, right? And of course, there's the technology and all the means in which to do it, but it starts with you, the voice of that, right? So we're doing a call this Thursday, and usually, again, I usually do these lives on Wednesday, but I can't do it because I'm doing this gig this week. So I'm doing it on Monday. So there's a pop-up call. I call them pop-up calls. Like pop-up trainings, pop-up. Remember how there's like pop-up in malls, like a pop-up store. So these are like pop-up calls, right? Boom, they just kind of pop up. Usually do 2 a month. Have been doing them consistently. This week's topic is the power of a positive pivot, right? The power of a positive pivot. Now, that'll relate to your personal life, that'll relate to your professional life, that'll relate to any aspect of your life you want. Okay, promise. Your money life, your relationship life, your body life. And I'm gonna open up the aperture a little bit on this Thursday to talk a little bit about the energy of there's the taking care of your body at a whole nother level. I am learning as I get older at 65, this thing called my body and my energy needs impeccable attention. And we're going to get into that a little bit because if I'm going to be in the longevity of this, I think many of you are, this needs attention. And it's not a get to it later. Most of us, I think, I want to be careful how I say this, but many of you probably do take pretty good care of yourself. But at 65, I've had to up the game to a whole nother level, right? I need to get my heart raced. I need to get my adrenaline going. I need to eat cleaner than I've ever eaten before. I minimized alcohol, like no kidding. This sort of body as a temple thing, right? So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that on Thursday, because I'm going to use Jimmy Carter as the example today. He's been up to something bigger than himself his whole life, and that's the bigger game philosophy in a nutshell. When you're up to something bigger than you know how to do, and you're committed to that, it's called living a committed life. Oh my gosh, get ready for the longevity of life to kick in. Okay, so we're going to chat about that on Thursday. And I'll be really transparent that I'm going to offer you a ticket to my 2-day event. We have about 150 people registered. I won't go into that too much right now, but that's called Produce You, the event. It's a virtual experience from my living room. I'm setting up a studio this Thursday. It's really fun. I geek out on the whole tech stuff. So anyway, hope this has been useful. I'll leave you with a final question to consider for yourself from this conversation today, or from this concept of short-term, long-term. And just consider this, where and when where do I get sort of anxious and worried? And start to look at that through the perspective of, oh, that's because I'm fear-based short-term thinking versus long-term impact. And when I think long-term impact, I usually take a breath. I go, I get it. This video is going to live here online forever. Maybe people will watch it, maybe they won't. But I'm committed to the long game of myself and for other people. So there you go, everybody. The link will be dropped. Jocelyn's going to drop the link. It's this Thursday, October 3rd, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Say it again. Thursday, October 3rd, 11 a.m. Pacific time. It's a registration call, ricktamlin.com/pivot. Pivot. And you remember that great Friends episode? I might even play it where they're bringing the couch up the stairs, and I think it's Ross was always yelling, "Pivot, pivot!" So I was thinking about the other day on how to have it, how to bring some levity to the topic. So we might even show that video. I just had the creative idea. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. More to come. Thanks for listening. And thank you for doing the good work you do already. You already touch many people's lives. I know this. How do I know this? Because you're doing the good work. And it's not for the faint of heart, the work that you're doing, but it is for the full of heart. You probably heard me say that if you've hung out with me. So I know, Mary, I know, me too. I love that episode. Remember that episode. We'll watch I'll grab a little video. We'll watch it on Thursday together to make the point, to create some levity. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. More to come. I'm off to do final design with this corporate gig around them playing their bigger game, because what's very exciting, I'll end ever since COVID, everything got canceled. Now teams are getting back into rooms together, and bigger game, the workshop, is coming back online for teams. Just a little awareness, like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't do any heavy marketing. I just started to talk about it a little bit more, and here we go. Because as you talk about your good work in the world, rather than sell your good work into the world, you just talk about it. You'd be surprised who comes in your direction. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. I'm going to do the little closing out. I have to end in Instagram, and then I'll come end over here. So, all right, everybody, be well. Why can't I see? Hang on here. There we go. Bear with me, everybody. Jocelyn, I can't see on Instagram where it stops. I don't know what's happening, everybody. I'm having a tech moment, everybody. I can't find the stop video in. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to just step over here and see what happens. All right. Let's see.